Let us begin. Where do you want me to stand? Where's the red spot?
Yeah, that'll do. I'll follow you. You're live.
Good evening. Welcome again to the Airstream Wireless members meeting. This is the month of February, and how time is flying. Feels like we were just here last week. But we've got a fair bit going on as usual. Bit of an update as always on what the team's been up to. Network report tonight. Justo is also kindly going to do another presentation for us. A little bit of a tech demo on how to correctly set up some VLAN management configuration on Ubiquiti devices. As you guys know, the setup we use is usually a bridged configuration, which means it's hard to actually get to your device once you've got it connected and still configure the radio itself. So he'll tell you some tricks on how we do that, which will be interesting for anyone that's playing around with the equipment. An update on some other things. We've recently been in discussion with a new initiative called the Smart City Studio, and that's running out of Pirie Street in the city. It's a sort of initiative between local government, Adelaide City Council, and a number of other players in the industry. You may have noticed, especially on Pirie Street, there's some sensors now on the street lamps down the street, and they're using those sensors to do things like determine if there are car parks available, various environmental sensors and other things. This whole initiative, this whole concept is basically that. It's looking at the concept of a smart city, looking at the use of sensors, the technology within the IoT, the Internet of Things space, and basically asking the community and entrepreneurs, developers out there in Adelaide to put their heads together and come up with some cool ideas around that. And to that end, you know, they've launched their Smart City Studio I think it was last month, and Airstream is currently in discussions trying to come up with some different projects along that line. But they've also been in discussion with Hackerspace as well, Hackerspace Adelaide. Some of you may know Robert Hart. He's a very big coordinator now for the Hackerspace Adelaide, and getting all that running and getting some momentum around that. So the concept is a hackathon that will be coming up soon. I don't think they've actually specified an exact date yet. It's more about just working out how it's going to run. We will have some more information put up on the website, and I can also put some links up later on. I haven't yet made that announcement. It's only really just happened in the last few days. So expect an email/website article around that. But basically it's an open event for multiple teams, people to get together, and you get a whole bunch of hardware. I think there's some access to some cloud computing resources and things like that they're giving these teams, and then you just go away and you kind of come up with some cool ideas around this whole IoT, sensor networks, and smart city concepts. So sounds like a pretty cool event. I think there is some kind of prize competition thing running where it'll be a team-based event. So if you're interested in that, certainly keep your ear to the ground, and we'll try and broadcast as much information as we can as well in that space. Otherwise, there'll be more updates around the whole collaboration that we're trying to get going. So that's pretty exciting, and obviously something we would be, and our members would be very interested in that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. What else is on the news? We're still calling out for members to get involved with the ASLAN coordination. We are kind of still working out what's going to happen with that, and expect some more news on that soon as well. We apologise, it's been a bit quiet, but things are a little bit hectic. We're trying to kind of gather together all the information about ASLAN that's been distributed amongst our members. And of course the Airstream Barbecue, which happened in the last week of January. You would remember we mentioned it after the meeting, that it was going to be the following weekend. And it was actually a huge success down there at the Officeworks Trinity Gardens. I could put Tony on the spot now and tell him to give us a bit of a report on that. He looks really excited to do that. I believe the takings were somewhere in the order of $500+, so that was really well worth doing. And of course, we did have a bit better planning around the whole schedule of members, which seemed to work really well. And thanks, of course, to everyone that came out on the day, even if you weren't helping with the actual barbecue. There were a lot of guys just there just to support and buy some snags and have a bit of a chat. So that was really cool. Anything else to add?
Well, we've got more barbecues on the way, of course.
Yep, Tony's still planning some more.
Well, they're not just planned, they are a reality.
Oh, you have locked in, is it the Bunnings one?
Yes, we have. We've got two barbecues in Bunnings.
Yep.
One's on the 6th of April, one's on the 24th of June.
6th of April, 24th of June. Bunnings barbecues. Again, we're going to do the whole call for members and the we'll set up a schedule for that as well. What location?
Bunnings at Woodville.
It's the Woodville Bunnings. So if you're in that area perhaps, nearby Woodville Bunnings, we would really appreciate you could come and help out even just for a few hours with the barbecue. And yeah, it's well worth it. As far as fundraising goes, we'll definitely be doing more of these. So keep your ears out. We will send out a broadcast as soon as we get more info and lock that one in. All right. Other things I wanted to mention. Membership has been going really well. Just wanted to thank everyone who's been renewing recently. I've been more familiar with it because I've actually been processing a lot of the memberships myself. But yeah, it's really great. We're pushing up about 120 members now, so that's really excellent. And people are renewing more frequently, which is good, no doubt, because we're doing such a great job with reminding them how important it is for memberships as far as fundraising and keeping the network running. It covers costs as far as repairs to things. Justin will tell you he's always out buying something to replace a radio that's died somewhere or yeah, crazy. Even UPSs we've had dying lately, so yeah, it's good for everything, as well of course expanding the network into new areas around the city. So thank you very much, and keep spreading the word for new members of course as well. So I'll probably have to have a bit of a break now. For all of you that aren't here, I'll just let you know we've got a lovely door prize tonight, an RJ45 crimping tool. So I can see everyone here is pretty excited to get their hands on this one tonight. Make sure you get down to a meeting occasionally. You can pick up some cool prizes, That's all my notes. I might hand over to Justo now if he's ready to go. And he's going to tell you a little bit more on the technical side of how to do some VLANs.
Not right now. Network report first.
Network report first.
Yep.
There you go.
Maybe. Okay. So still not a whole lot that's happened, but there will be a whole lot happening soon. I'm really hoping. But we do have a couple of things coming up. So things of interest to everyone here. That's not just general housekeeping things. So Lonsdale and Shido and even Cement Hill and O'Halloran Hill should be scheduled for maintenance this month, early next. Well, we're almost at the end of this month, so early next month hopefully. To realign some links, replace some hardware, and we'll realign some hardware as well. More on that when it happens or before it happens. We are finally in the processes of a proposal to replace the backbone connection from Ingle Farm to EARC. Something that would help a lot with UniSA dropping so much as it has been recently. So that is currently in the pipeline, almost ready to go to the committee for funding approval. So that's getting AC link point to point from Ingle Farm to EARC, which will probably become the primary, maybe load balance it with the secondary path. Not sure yet. We'll see how it happens. I believe there is currently a proposal in development for Carrick Hill to get upgraded, which would be interesting. A lot of people have seen Carrick Hill, but there's not been a lot of infrastructure there or backbone connectivity. So hopefully that will help a few members that can see that. And you can see it from quite a lot of places. which is good. That'll hopefully open up that area for us, and there's a couple of clients already connected to it that'll help. There's still obviously the UniSA AC Light rocket that's going on the sector there that needs to be upgraded. We're just waiting on AC Light to get ordered and to come to me. And then we'll schedule times for that. Now that the guy that does the ordering is back, we can get that order sorted out.
The back guy.
That bloke. But that's good. No rush because no one had any time anyways. And it was offline, so
Different countries. So.
yeah. Internet, mate. Internet.
What country have you picked, buddy, though?
I did.
Where did you pick it all back?
I did.
Should have gone to
Should've
Ubiquity.
Should have.
Carrick Hill currently has a fault added as well, where the router has died. There's currently been a layer 2 fix applied to that to help the people that are connected to it still route through it. And Astra Blair Athol still has an Omni fault that we haven't been able to get site access yet to achieve to fix. And that's about all I have for network update. Does anyone have any questions about network, upcoming projects, something you think we should work on? If there's something you think we should work on, it's good time. There's currently people that need projects to manage. So if anyone's got any suggestions?
Well, we need to go on to Tonsley too, do that scan.
Yes, Tony needs to be scanned too. That requires a site induction though, so that needs a site induction. So there's a few of us
Well,
though.
who are you talking at?
Oh, I'm just saying, everyone.
Between them.
So yeah.
Can I ask about, I don't know if it's network, but the new mapping thing, is there any,
Yeah, that's this bloke here.
yeah.
What was that about on that?
The new mapping thing.
Yeah.
Are you going to come to the meeting so you can discuss it with the network team? That was the last update I heard.
Yeah. That was
So that'll happen this month.
Well,
next
we were
month.
going to have a specific meeting around it, I think.
Yes, we're going to have, no, that's what we decided on, wasn't
Better
it?
yet.
We're going to have a specific meeting to discuss that, because I believe it's almost there. Getting there, slowly.
Yep. I'll give you sneak peeks tonight if you're here and you want to see it.
Does the width of the line represent the bandwidth?
That's a secret.
And if it does, where's it get,
Theoretical bandwidth.
if it does, where's it
yes.
get the bandwidth from?
Theoretical bandwidth.
I was going to say, does it get it from the Eagle Farm servers?
It's what?
Zabbix on the Eagle Farm servers. That's all good.
Oh, yeah. They're still running.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're not on the sand.
Ah, is that the only server that's still running? Whatever.
Hey, that's a network update.
He fixed that, didn't he? Is it? I wasn't aware they were network infrastructure.
It's just an update.
I don't have an update for it. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah,
The answer to your question is yes. I want to think.
Is it completely impossible to do anything in CBD? Is it just
Um,
Funny you should ask, but that is one of the kind of secondary objectives of the whole IoT project. Yeah, and the coordinator for that at the Smart City Studio is very actively communicating within City Council and with his contacts to try and establish some stuff for us. We don't know what that would be. I'm not going to jump the gun or anything, but
Okay.
we would like that to create a bit more opportunity for us and for that project, obviously, within the CBD.
A lot of good
they're
things have
aware
come
of
out
the
of that.
kind of they're aware of the kind of coverage we have out in the suburbs already. But with this whole thing being very, the smart city, they've got their sensors in there already, even to the point where they've got the what do they call it these days? City land. Freenet, Adelaide free Wi-Fi, right? That in itself is kind of tied in with the whole sensor network thing that they've got going, and they're trying to work out how it's all going to work. So it's early days yet, but there's opportunity for it.
Would that, when you say like opportunity, would that possibly be like outside of the 2.45 or 2.45?
Unlikely. Who's going to pay? Yeah,
Right.
probably not.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
But yeah, nevertheless.
You could probably get a link out if you point it away from Westpac and put like a LED wall behind you.
Lots of aluminium foil.
But yeah, you should be fine. That's where most of the 5G noise comes from. Cool. Any other network questions before I move on to my crappy drawing and presentation? Hat's going to give a no DB update. No.
Yeah, sure. Not now, after we're done.
Yeah, after I'm done. Cool. So if you want to swap over the monitor cable to my laptop and Mr. FTY can drive with Professor
There you
Justin.
go, T. Take it over.
Sorry, it's Sam FTY, as the minutes say.
What's in the sense?
50 cent.
Okay, so basically what I'm going to go over is a quick run over connecting to an Airstream access point with a VLAN on a Ubiquiti device. It's something that a lot of people have asked me how to do personally. So we're going to do a quick run over it. When I say with a VLAN, it's so you put the data for like the Airstream data on the VLAN and then the management on a separate IP address. So that can be an internal IP address or whatever. So I'll run you through basics. So basically this is what the topology looks like usually. So you got your access point. For us it's Airstream Parkside, which is over on the building behind me. A client, which is an NanoStation, which is on that Dell monitor stand right there. That NanoStation is connected with a hard wire back to the 750 UP, which is powering the device as well, which is its router. And then that's got a link to the internal network. And it doesn't have to be 750 UP, that's just what I have spare laying around to do. The concept's basically the same for both. I've done this with an OpenWRT router before, or anything that does a VLAN, you can put an IP address on. So there's a few things to consider. So what I'm doing is using this range, so 10.112.0.225 as my, or 224/27 as my management VLAN for my management interfaces to my devices. So if you go to the node DB, which is hopefully there, so you can see that I've added a local LAN subnet here, and that's my core 1, which is my router, and my BBR1, which is my backbone radio. Yeah, which is my backbone radio, which is on .231. And this is our client IP address, which we'll get to in a minute. So if we go back to the device, I'm going to assume that everyone knows how to log into their device. Let's change this IP address, etc., etc. Because I've already done that, and also connect to an AP. It's pretty simple. I'll quickly run through connecting to the AP. So you go to the wireless tab. Just one important thing we need to remember when we're using a VLAN, or really it should be really enabled on any Ubiquiti device. On the AC stuff, it's automatically enabled by default. It's WDS, transparent bridge mode. You get some funky routing issues if you don't enable that because of ARP and whatever. So obviously our wireless mode station, because we're connecting the access point. Our SSID is Airstream Parkside. We're not locking to an AP. If you lock to an AP, for example, that would be useful somewhere like EARC, where there's four sectors all with the same SSID pointing in different directions. So you can lock to that AP, so you will never leave that AP, and you won't accidentally connect to another one that's 10 dB worse. Obviously, IE mode is BGN mixed, which is just our protocol that we're using. Channel width, auto 2040, leave it in there, fix it both. 2040 is basically what all of our APs use. Frequency scan list if we need it. ERIP calculation, so this can calculate your output power and stuff for you in your frequency range that you're in, providing you have the antenna gain set properly. And then there's data rate modules and stuff. And then down the bottom is obviously your encryption key. If you click show. So WPA2 AES is what the AP is configured to use, and that's the pre-shared key. And you can find that information if you go to the node database and go to the Parkside. Sorry, I'll put you on the spot. So Control D, duplicate tab. No. Just right click the tab and go do. Okay. Same FTY. I've got more tabs across the top than I do. So you find that out by go find the access point on Parkside and then clicking show. And as long as the network team member who set the site up properly has put the information in here, you'll be all good. So you see I set the site up, which is WPA2 AES with the passphrase Emacs enabled, WDS enabled. It obviously, that spot's meant for a web key, but just hasn't, new NoDB will fix that. So we can go back. So basically what we've done is connected the station to the access point. That's about it. Can't route any traffic over or anything like that. So we're going to set that up now. Now, so what I want to do is I can access this nanostation, our station nanostation, on the physical connection, on the VLAN 1 or the layer 2 network of the 750EP, which is currently what is set up, and how we're accessing the nanostation when he switches back to the nanostation. He's falling asleep over there. So go to the network tab. And you can see that I've entered the IP address and stuff in there. That's how I'm accessing it. Subnet mask and do that. That's another lesson for another time. So what we're going to do is we want to configure the data from the access point to go over a VLAN. So for example, this is useful if you're plugging your NanoBeam into a PoE switch. You can give it IP address on your LAN, but VLAN it back to your router and give it what would effectively be a WAN IP on your router. And then do your firewalling and NAT from there. So first thing we do is we want to go to configuration mode advanced. And it's going to bring up a whole bunch of extra things. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a VLAN on our LAN interface. So we're going to use VLAN 10 for this example. And then we click Add. Next thing we want to do is we want to go to Bridge. And you'll notice that this is a nanostation, so it's got 2 LAN ports on it. LAN 0 is always the one that has the PoE on it. So what we want to do is we want to remove LAN 0 and LAN 1. And then we want to add LAN 0.10, which is VLAN 10. So basically what we're doing here is we're bridging the WLAN 0, which is the wireless radio or interface on the thing on the nanostation with VLAN 10. And then we scroll up, so we need to change a couple more things before we hit apply. So the first and most important thing you need to do is this management interface. You need to change it to LAN. If you don't change it to LAN, you'll lose access to your device. You have to do some funky routing to get into the VLAN and do some parasitic IPs. But it's not the end of the world, but it's just,
You could use that thing at the top there where you test mode.
Yeah, you can use test, so we'll show you that in a sec. So now that's all applied, we're going to click change. As Hat just pointed out, they're in a test mode and apply and discard. Discard obviously discards changes you just made. Test is test. I think it does it to a reboot, or is it still a time limit?
60 seconds.
Yeah, 60 seconds, there you go. I thought it was a time limit. Yeah, and obviously apply. So we're not going to do that yet because we've got more settings to change. So once you click apply on a page, you can change tabs very easily. So we can go back to the wireless tab and it will still say it has settings to apply, which is good. But we're all good, so we can click apply. Now what's going to happen is these old N devices are going to do a reboot, soft reboot, so it'll go offline for a second. And disconnect from the AP. Just click the main tab. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. So we've bridged the wireless interface with the VLAN. Any questions so far? Yep.
So the IP that it's been allocated from Parkside,
Yep.
that IP is not in the range that you allocated yourself.
Correct. So for the management interface of this device?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So how do those two relate to each other?
Okay, so we're about to get to that. So that IP address that I've assigned to Parkside, from Parkside, will be the IP address we assign to the other end of that VLAN. Yeah, so I'll show you that in a second. So that's all done. This is not a great connection, but it's pretty good. It'll get worse if I do this. No. So we're done with that. So we're going to open up our router now, which for me is a RV750EP. I've already done some, this is basically comes out of the box in these 4 ports in a switch. I've done some labeling. I've also added some IP addresses. If you go to IP addresses, I've just added the LAN interface and an internal LAN. So basically how I usually set stuff up is I use an Airstream range, which is the 10.112.0.225 or 224/27 subnet, which goes on these 4 ports, so either 2, 3, 4, or 5. That means I can put any Airstream stuff in that subnet on those ports. with an IP address from that range. And then my internal LAN, which is 192.168.0.1/24, which is people will probably used to seeing around. And we can NAT from that to the Airstream LAN, etc., etc. So what we want to do is we want to create a VLAN interface on here, assign it an IP address, and then set up a route so it routes to the Airstream network. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a VLAN. So plus button, VLAN. Going to bring up this cool thing, give it a name, VLAN 10. So you're going to follow my naming standard and just call it Parkside. And we go down, we'll change the VLAN ID. Yep, jumped ahead. So we changed the VLAN ID. So VLAN ID is 10 because we're using 10. We don't need to click use service tag in this case, in this instance. Now, the interface we put the VLAN on, don't get confused. If you plug it into Ether5, you don't put, and Ether5 is in a switch like it is here, you don't put the VLAN on Ether5. It always goes in the topmost interface. So for this, the master interface. So in this case, it's our Ether2. If the Ether2 was in a bridge, the VLAN would have to go on a bridge, for example. That's how sometimes we lose access to routers when we're doing configuration changes and getting in IP tunnels and stuff. But yeah, so it's always got to go on the master interface. So we can click OK on that one. So now basically we've got a VLAN, and we should see broadcast packets on it, which we are, from the Parkside on thing, I believe. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to assign our IP address to that VLAN. But before I go anywhere else, any questions? No? Okay, so now we want to assign an IP address. So let's go IP addresses, new address, and our address is one that we were assigned from Parkside, which is 10.123.1.2/27. And make sure that goes onto the VLAN interface, and we click apply OK. And you can add a comment if you like. I suggest you do. Keep things nice and organised. Can't spell on my keyboard, eh? Paper nuts. Airstream Parkside. Done. So now theoretically, this router should be able to ping the AP. And the AP address is 10.123.1.1. All good. That's good. The connection's not great because it's going through a wall, but so now what we want to do is we want to see if our computer can ping that. I'll clear that. Yeah, ping. So that's, because you need to disconnect me from the wireless. It's probably going to connect to another wireless network. So ping it now. Obviously, now we don't get it. So the reason why this is happening is because we know how to, or the router knows how to get to that address because it's got an address on the router, but no one else does. Pretty much. And there's also some NAT issues. So basically we've got two. So because we're using a routed subnet, we're going to use that for later, but later on when we do BGP, we'll get into that. So all we want to do is we want to NAT our traffic going out of that VLAN to our IP address so we can ping the rest of the network. So we're going to go to IP firewall, NAT, add a NAT rule, so source NAT, yep, no, there's out interface. Out interface. So we're going to say everything going out on VLAN 10, action masquerade, NAT, click apply, basic, and then we also want to add, so now we should be able to go back and we should be able to ping that. Oh, we should be able to ping that now, right? If I'm wrong, yep. Cool, so that's that. Now if we try to ping something like a DNS server, 0.10, we still won't be able to do it, and we'll get this destination net unreachable. So this is replying from our router, so 750p is on the table, saying that it can't reach it because it doesn't have a route to that address. So we just need to add a route. So go to IP routes, we want to add a route. So Airstream is 10.96.0.11. Yeah, 0.0.11. No, 0.0/11. That's the Airstream subnet that we use here in South Australia. I've begun to use /8, 10.0.0.0/8 to include WACAN and Melbourne Wi-Fi. We do have some VPNs to them, but for this case, 10.96.0.0 will work for us. And then we want to specify a gateway. So now we need to tell our router to forward all our packets to a router that knows how to get to it. So in this case, I don't suggest using the interface. I suggest using the IP address of the remote router, which is 10.123.1.1. I've seen some funky things happen with when you're using interfaces, but it works obviously better in some versions of some routers than others. Click apply. This should say it's reachable, and it should tell you by what interface. And then now, if we go back to our computer, we should be able to ping our DNS server. Look at that. Anyone have any questions?
What just happened?
What just happened?
What is the VLAN?
What is a VLAN? A VLAN is a virtual LAN. Okay, so basically what we've done is physical cable is our management interface, which is accessible to our web interface so we can get to our device. And we're sending all the data across our VLAN to our router, and then gave our VLAN an IP address on the Airstream network, and we're using that as our WAN interface to Airstream. So we can apply heaps of stuff to that, whether it be, so NAT we did obviously, then we could do firewalls, all that kind of stuff. If you're behind NAT though, it's kind of easy. It's kind of hard for people to get into, but yeah. So that's basic client one connection setup, using a client connection, not a routed subnet. Hopefully we'll get to more demonstrations and stuff doing BGP with routed subnets and stuff in the future. You have a
What are
question?
some of the common issues and how do you troubleshoot?
Common issues? The biggest common issue I've seen with doing routing with like this is WDS. If that box is not ticked, you will get weird issues. It'll work sometimes and it won't work other times, and routers dropping packets. It's just crazy. If you're seeing funny things happen, like things that are different all the time, or you're getting weird timeouts, always check WDS first. It needs to be on both ends of the device, both ends of the link. Another common one is not so much with stuff like this, but just subnets and routes not being entered properly into the table. So when you're entering IP addresses, so you've got IP addresses, make sure you always include your subnet. And make sure if you ever change it, you always update your network, because that can cause a lot of issues too if you do a /27 odd thing. RouterOS doesn't let you do it anymore, but it used to. Another problem that I usually come across is people going, oh, my router can ping Airstream, but I can't from my computer. Make sure your computer either is using the router as a default gateway, or you have a static route set up in your default gateway, or default router, pointing to your Airstream router. And then also make sure you are natting your traffic out as well. If you don't nat your traffic, you're about to get too far. Any other questions? An advantage of using a VLAN is when you have multiple devices. You can literally plug them into any of these 4 ports and the VLAN will work. So you don't need to plug, like for example, port 1 doesn't have to be the NANO station, and port 2 doesn't have to be the NANO bridge. You can plug into any 4 of those ports, the VLAN's on that switch or on that master port, it'll pick it up and do the routing. It'll pick it up and go good because it's just a switch. Other ways where we do things like we've started been doing with the air fibers and stuff now, using /29s, is it has to be plugged into that physical Ethernet port for it to work, which can sometimes get confusing when you've got 3 or 4 devices, 400 cables.
The other advantage is the management subnet.
Yep, the other advantage is the management subnet. You can keep it all separate. It's really good. Kind of frees up space on other subnets if you need it. Yeah. Especially with an Airstream subnet, we only got 30 IP addresses. so do.
What about maybe you should just touch on security? I know some people are concerned that in doing this, they've exposed their phone network to the.
Yep,
What
so
are
in this case, with security wise, I mean in this case, they're only going to be able to get to your router. Because you're behind a NAT, there is a possibility that people can get through, but it's not really happening because they hit the router and it won't go anywhere because it can't go anywhere. But they'll be able to access the router. For example, we will be able to browse to the IP address of this router from somewhere else on the Airstream network, and you will get a login page. It's not a huge problem because there's a login page, but if you don't have a password set on the admin account, it'll auto log you into the device. So that's kind of bad. Ways to fix things like that is filter rules, so firewall rules, which we'll cover in a little bit in the future. It's basically all up to you how well you configure your router, which is kind of a thing. But as long as you're behind a client connection NAT, the only real device that they're going to be able to get to on your network is your router with your IP address on it. And even then, you can turn off. You can make it so that those interfaces are only available, like management interfaces are only available from a certain subnet, or disable them completely, etc., etc. I'm happy to help with security, run firewalls and all my stuff. So, any questions you can ask. All right, all good. Does that answer your question about what the difference between the two subnets are?
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah, so different interfaces. So.
How many of us that are present have actually attempted any of this? So everyone that's here that I didn't already know knows how to do that. Has never actually tried it.
Correct. It's big.
Who from that subset of people thinks they may want to do this, need to do this, or has perhaps an interest in knowing more about that kind of thing? Yeah. It's good to know.
If you want to have a quick chat about it after the meeting.
We're also trying to gauge, how effective these presentations are, whether we should do more focused meetings around this type of topic, those kinds of things. So, your feedback is very important.
If we can all remember one thing together as a club, we can do it.
Yeah, and we're always obviously brainstorming for ideas about meeting content. So
Yeah. So hey, if you want me to do a presentation on something, or want one of the other network guys to do a presentation on something, or you want Cook to do a presentation on how not to drop a mask on your head, people will be happy to do that.
And sometimes there's specific configurations that we do. Obviously, not every node is identical.
Yeah.
What Justin just run you through here is a basic
Basic
requirement.
client link.
Yeah,
pretty much.
for having a single connection to a node somewhere. It's not the only way to do it either.
No, there's
There
plenty
are.
of different ways.
So this is just what we consider the best way.
Yeah, this is what we do mainly because we don't have to worry about plugging stuff into the right ports. Even though it's nice to know what ports they're plugged into because you can power cycle them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just makes it a little bit easier for us.
Yeah, cool.
Can I just ask, so the advantage of the setup I had was just NAT on the actual
Device.
client,
Yep.
and then just doing static routes to that. So the advantage of this is you don't have to run that on
No, you have
Yeah, so you don't have to use the device as the router, pretty much.
is that much of a bandwidth cost?
No, not for speeds. What were you connecting to?
I was connecting to one, I think, airport, I think.
Okay, yeah,
Nothing going through it. So.
probably not. They're pretty good routers and pretty good CPUs. I do it on a couple and I don't see any performance issues really. It's personal preference. If you're seeing overwards of 50 megabits on your connection, you might want to consider not doing the routing on the device, but I haven't seen them cap. Theoretically they should be able to do the 100 megabit of their Ethernet connection, if you can get that from a wireless signal. But,
And obviously, if you had more than one device, that would quickly become a nightmare.
yes, so if you have one device, if you have more than one, that becomes a nightmare because you've got to do static and routing and then, yeah. We used to do it like that.
Yeah.
We used
So
to do custom firmwares at BGP.
A lot of what the guys do these days is
That was those days.
they'll just replace their home router with one of the MikroTik boards thus giving you the ability to do this advanced configuration. But you can also plug your own
Yeah,
XML
so-
into it if you want.
Open up core 1.highgate. Core 1, no, that's an edge router, core 2. An example of something with more than one VLAN on it would be, it's right, not there anyway. It'll be there. Just find box, Highgate,
Wow.
and then scroll down. Core 2. I wonder how dirty this router is.
Did you set it up?
I haven't touched it recently. I think it's got Howard Hill on it, so yeah, scroll across. This is that thing I was talking about with the bridge. See how we've got the VLANs here on a bridge? Because that's the topmost or the master interface. As you can see, the master interface, which is this one, has a slave, has an S over a slave symbol, so that's not the master. This is something with multiple VLANs. That's multiple devices routing out to multiple remote sites. If you're doing that on a single router, doing the routing on a device, it get a bit funky, but it can be done. It's currently what's in use at Carrick Hill. If you have any questions, come chat with me. That needs to be cleaned up. But yeah, that's me. Who's next?
Pretty much had a network update. Any other
Anyone with-
comments from the floor?
Anyone want to volunteer to draw better pictures for me? Let me know.
Yeah, show of hands for how effective that diagram was.
Gives you a bit of a bit of a overview of how it works.
That's good. I like
I
that.
can't wait to draw one like a side of multiple links.
That's next month, is it?
Next month is BGP. Simple period BGP.
Very nice. So there you have it, folks. Yeah, stay tuned next month for a continuation of this presentation. And of course, if there is any feedback or comments, criticisms or otherwise, let us know, because we're always trying to come up with new topics and things that people are genuinely interested in or want to know more about or are having problems with. If we don't know the answers, we can find people that will hopefully know the answers. So do get in touch with us if that is the case. Any other news? I'll just ask anyone else if they've got anything else to add. Otherwise, I think we'll just wrap it up. Again, barbecues that are coming up, they're still a few months away, so don't get too worried about that. We'll let you know more. Stay tuned for more on the Smart City project as well. And if you are interested in the IoT Hackathon event, you'll see a post about that in the next few days. And get in touch with us as soon as you can. We want to kind of gauge how many people will be involved in that. I think it's going to be quite important to make sure anyone that wants to take part in it gets in early because of this whole team aspect that they're going with. So if you're interested in hacking some hardware and or got a great idea for something in this IoT space, again, get in touch on the email or chat, however. So that's about it. We'll leave it there and we'll see you next month. Thanks very much for viewing and catch you then.